Brave Hearts, Urbanites, Coach Mad Hatters, Vineyard Creatrix, and Crimson Velvet VIPs. I have a few questions, and so here is where I am going to lay them down. Welcome to my Friday, September 23rd, 2022 at 11:06 a.m. DMV Standard Time. First and foremost, I would like to invite you to the blog, northstarnarratives.blogspot.com. northstarnarratives.blogspot.com. And just in case you didn't get it, because I'm not sure if the plane going over registered very loudly, but here it is again. Third time's a charm. North Star Narratives. northstarnarratives.blogspot.com. I have a few visuals that will coincide with this segment that will be there for your review. And yes, it is all part of the placement. And sometimes it's good to hear it and see it. Audio and visual harmonized together makes a more wholesome comprehension level or comprehension absorption rate. And yeah, let me forewarn you, I'm a bit wordy. I am a bit wordy. My Saturn is in Gemini, 0 degrees retrograde, with Mercury being Gemini's ruling planet. There are some things that is going along with me that is not really of everyone else. This is one of the reasons why I speak fluently about the difference between mainstream information, um, mass programming, because inside of one's non-physical spaces, everyone is not created equal. And it is, as I often refer to it, like a bar of mixed drinks. And that the movement from top shelf to lower shelf, or even down in the cabinets, is all about perspective and timing. You can be top shelf for a few years, and next thing you know, you have plummeted into the cabinets. And even the way I speak of it like that kind of implies that being in a cabinet is a bad situation. And it really isn't. So here is my question. Oh, you know what? How about this? Since I am now getting into the manifestos of leading with context, because so much stuff can be misconstrued. And we see this every fucking day of our lives inside of this time and space. We see how so much can get easily misconstrued. And now that we're in this entitlement of, I don't have to explain myself, so much is getting thrown out of whack. But I personally believe that that is of divine purpose. I believe, as I've been speaking of for the last 5 years, about this ancient feminine energy that is coming to being balanced to the lopsided ass shit we know as patriarchy. And even though it dwindles and ripples and ruffles feathers, like it is still an effect of the inevitable harmonization of balance. And so all of us are being challenged to not speak in terms of either or. It's the guy and the girl. And we ain't talking about sexuality. I'm still rather curious about the friendships and the relationships that are required to cultivate without sex, beyond this thing we like to call embodiment. Into the metaphysical we go. We're even getting challenged to be able to differentiate from the mainstream meanings what it is that's been thrust down our throat for generations to generations, and step outside of the normal nucleus, the nucleus of normality, inside of the most often terrifying structures of unpredictability and divine intervention. For so long, mainstream has been telling us to hit the easy button. That's what they want us to do. They want us to rely on them and go to that which is most convenient. And they will go to the outer limits to make sure shit is convenient. Because if it's right there for you, then you won't go searching for the more unconventional things and incorporate that into your expression. Because, see, if it gets too unique, that gets too complicated when it comes to managing constituents. There's power in agreement, and there is divide and conquer ishness inside of anything that stands alone, alienated. And you got to do it in such a particular fashion that the subject, quote unquote, won't realize that it's being alienated. Do we honestly think COINTELPRO was buried or is laying dormant? Oh, silly rabbit. They really are playing tricks on you, kid. And so those that come to be the vortex, or those that are identified as the Neo of certain scenarios, you, we, the, is quietly being suffocated. No incoming or outgoing. And it's done in such a nuanced fashion that for the collective to look at the ones that are on the outer fringes, then they are labeled in these weirdoisms, as if weird isn't the most magical essence of the human experience. We love to claim diversity, but I promise you, I'm not seeing much that supports this. Either I need you to think like me, like minded, or somehow I'm going to criticize you. I'm going to need you to come wholesome and righteous, or I'm going to criticize that. I'm going to critique that. I'm going to righteously, indignantly critique that and create this subsequent narrative that says this is how you ought to be, or else you are somehow low. And here, yet again, which I already said, I'm going to the grave with this one. I am waiting. I am patiently waiting for someone to explain to me the energetic levels between high and low, and how the low doesn't register into the root. We and sometimes I do get very passionate with the unavailability to challenge oneself against the mainstream notions and being able to differentiate, acknowledge the difference. That's what diversity is, isn't it? Really, truly being able to be aware of the fact that the way we speak, the way we think, the way we exist inside of this society was all on purpose. It's all by design. That's why there are 1,000 dictionaries and translations. because societies are built upon commonality, the common sense of the social structure, the common sense of the engine which encourages you to socialize in this manner. And so that's one of the reasons why folks that are quote unquote antisocial are villainized, because they don't get with the script that has been put before them. They are the ones that say something don't sound right, something don't feel right. And everything is not general. You can't speak in truth by saying women do this and men do this. There's so many cross sections. So inside of, I want to call it intuitive psychology, but then it's also incorporated with depth psychology. And then it bleeds into like the astro psychology. And trust me when I tell you, I am speaking as a scholar. I am a pupil. I am inside of a learning curve because it is rather intriguing and it naturally fill in blanks that I am not able to get from mainstream general assemblies. It is very specific. It is very deep. It's truly below the SEE line. It's below anything that I could see with my physical eyes. It is now inside of non physical spaces, and there's only one eye and a myriad of sensibilities inside of this realm. So, with all of that being said, Carl G. Jung, which is a Swiss psychologist, but he was way more than that, and it's escaping me at the moment. But last name is spelled Jung. So inside the world of psychology, they have this polarity where uh, you're either in agreement with Freudian, which is Sigmund Freud, and his bam ass nephew Edward Bernays, or you lean in more to those that seek the imaginal realm, which is Carl Jung, and I see his face, and I was just hold on, because I am in the middle of. I'm glad it worked out this way because I want to bring attention to. I am in the middle of a series with Joseph Campbell. Also, let me finish naming them. So Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell, Alan Watts. Um, oh my goodness, I see the other one. Now, what the detrimental part of it is when I am cross-referencing with my kinfolk with regards to this content and context. Because there's only a handful of folk that I would culturally resonate with that's speaking in terms of astropsychology. Because most often the astral realm is still considered some type of, the essence of some type of evil, which is just so remarkable to me because this our shit. They literally has they literally have scared us out of our dominion. And when I say they, I'm talking about the ones that have access to all of the knowledge and know the difference between what is being propped up in front of us and that which you have to go dig and seek. And all of the gatekeepers of the museums and libraries, do you ever wonder why this stuff is under lock and key? Has it ever tickled your fancy? Has it ever made you curious to go find out why these folk keep our shit under lock and key? And they really want to exchange it and give us the mind frame of reparations in terms of monies, as if there's a fucking comparison. This is how the lopsidedness is able to stay in the upright, because if they ever unlocked it, you want to talk about Pandora's treasure chest. Even the way they prop up that story is a bit bogus. They always seem to forget that hope is the bottom bitch. Hope, the one bringing up the rear, that's the last one out. That is the last quintessential that permeates from that box, that supersedes everything else that was released prior to. But they don't talk about that. It is by design by which your attention gets directed. That's the reason why you need to hear from Target 50,000 times a day in these lame ass commercials. Programming and repetition is a thing, and it's a treasured tool. You better believe it. Because each and every time it enters into your psyche, it leaves an imprint, or it deepens the imprint that's already there. And we really just be thinking it's marketing and advertising. So, inside of this realm called astropsychology, or I'm just going to say imaginal psychology. And imaginal is not the same as imagination, but I've given you two seeds. Trust me when I say plant them into your curiosity and see where it takes you. So, inside of imaginal psychology, there is this thing called the animus and the anima, or should I say this concept, this cosmic thread. And so what it says is that, for one, first and foremost, is that there is masculine and feminine dwelling inside of each and every earthling. You come made that way. And that beyond you, how about this? Beyond your physical sensibilities dwell two very powerful channels of energy, and it is responsive to either the sun, which is masculine, or the moon, which is feminine. The sun, which is masculine, aka lightness, and the moon, feminine, aka darkness. Masculine, aka positive, feminine, aka negative. And I ain't make this shit up. Go exploring, for Pete's sake. Prove me wrong. And seeing as that I've never been stuck with understanding when I stand corrected, I've never been stuck on that. I don't run from being corrected because I don't know every fucking thing, and neither do you. That's why curiosity is what it is. And no, it didn't kill the fucking cat. That's what they want you to believe so that you don't become curious. If they can frighten you out of it, they will. And like I say, I might always have to clarify who the they is. The ones with the knowledge. The ones with the shit under lock and key. Everybody can't get into certain noogans and pockets of Library of Congress. There are some law libraries you can't even fucking get into. There are some spaces in the museum you can't get into. There are some spaces in the museum you can only wear white gloves. It's so ancient. There's some in some rooms way on the other side of the world from where I am that you'll never see ever in your physical lifetime. You don't even know it exists. I think we would be dumbfounded and a loss for words if we could honestly take a glance. I ain't even talking about going engage with the material. Take a glance to know that it exists. And so the whole point is to keep the scope very limited, very boxed in. That's what the whole terminology think outside the box means. It means challenge yourself to what you think you know without trying to stuff it into these corridors of right and wrong, and just observe. Observe and acknowledge that it is. And inside of the third dimension, anything goes. Have we not learned that by now? And as long as we try to make sense of it along these rigid ass lines that says that there is good and evil and that you're supposed to lean more to one and not to the other, find out who's telling you that story. Find out who is in control of that narrative and why. So the animus, which is the masculine channel inside of a biological female. The anima is the feminine corridor or the feminine energy channel inside of a biological male. Now, this concept has been hot on my heels for a while now. And when I was first introduced to it, it was so foreign that it intimidated me. I was like, wait, what? But instead of completely, utterly, swiftly dismissing it, I was like, you know what? Let me sit with this. Now, granted, it took me longer to truly gain an understanding, but the fact that I didn't dismiss it allowed certain things to emerge and cross my paths that helped me connect certain dots, patch certain things together, and here we are. So if I was rushing it, or if I swiftly wanted to be right about something, I would have missed the whole kit and caboodle. And now I sit with knowledge that I am going to transcend this realm with. It's mine to have and to hold, even when death do us part. It's mine. It's already inside of my frequency. It is now harmonizing and synthesizing. And as long as I am here doing this earthling experience thing, it is going to continue to cultivate and incubate, expand and contract. And then it seasons my future peaks of curiosity. And slowly but surely, my points of view continue to expand and bleed into other areas that the social engine would scare me away from. I think personally, that's the reason why the whole curiosity killed the cat thing exists, is because the human psyche, endorsed by the human heart or the non physical heart consciousness, is going to always be somehow pushing and provoking for you to explore and expand and exhibit. But if you are afraid of it, that will have you bypass that door because you're afraid of it. If you think it's going to hurt or it's going to reject you or it's going to dispel you, discredit you, disengage you, disrepresent you, put its hooks in you, you're not going to be able to get away from it. You're going to be consumed and possessed. I tell you what possess you, them fucking Target commercials. That's what possesses you. Like you don't know what Target is. These lame ass sales, when it's already hiked up 50,000%, they're going to give you 10% off. As if they didn't situate the prices in the first place. Like they not in a, as if they are not in price wars inside of their own worlds of other conglomerates. See, that's a whole conversation we ain't never privy to. We just get the ads and go run our asses in there and buy up all they shit so their kids can go to Yale. So, You gotta know. We gotta know. And we gotta begin leading our perceptions with the notions that it is all a fucking setup. And it was never meant to include my kinfolk. It was never meant generation upon generation to include my kinfolk in none of the socially engineered estates of society. And so when they're talking about Americans, they ain't talking about me and my kinfolk. They don't even look at us as being Americans. And I try to situate it in terms where the grapevine can be able to comprehend it on a more broader, more deeper scope, like expand the view, zoom out, get the panoramic going, and then that by just by association is going to expand the periphery, right? And then let go of the limited beliefs that somehow high vibes are satisfactory, blissful, and that which to be reached upon, and low vibes is something need to be ran from. The suppression part also by design, but suppression and going deep are two different things. Willful ignorance and not knowing because what can I call it? Intellectual hoarding, two totally different things. Because if you don't know, you don't know. And quite honestly, the span of an earthling experience, you probably will never know all of it. I'm still being amazed at the creatures that are coming out of the sea, but I've never would have been inside of this awe factor if I would have continued to let them feed me what I'm supposing are the creatures of the sea. Because they're only going to prop up a few. Because if we really knew how diverse this realm truly is, we would get rid of, we would no longer even be having conversations about race. Because we would know that it's a man made construct and it favors European colonial pen. Once we get outside of that, even with rose colored glasses, the view is different. The prescription is different. Totally different. And it's all about being able to create awareness and maintain curiosity. Person, place, or thing. You're curious about a person, curious about a place, you're curious about a thing, and you don't have to physically go there to engage it. The agenda is to keep you focused only on the physical, only on the outer perimeter of your exist and how you relate to everything outside of you. That's one of the reasons why you won't find too much content about the intrapersonal relationship. All that goes on within, all of that non physical ooey gooiness. They want you to hate that. They want you to label that scary and spooky, and you better not go there. You're gonna lose yourself. And my response to that always is, if it's if losing myself means that I get rid of the self that is uberly socially conditioned, then yeah, I'm willing to lose myself. I'm willing to lose my mind if we are talking about the mind that is so programmed that I'm a fucking Agent Smith, where I am on autopilot doing a fucking bidding. Because why? Because the exchange is a luxurious life. I don't have to want for nothing, need nothing from anybody. I don't have to ask nobody nothing. I don't have to be indebted to nobody. I don't have to deal with the commoners. I don't have to deal with the third estate. So, I'm going to close out with a serious invitation to a film, a motion picture. And yes, I am still going to invite and point direction or point attention to this film, even though I am now having this thing where I am pushing back against the Hollywood narrative. Now, even with this being so, there are still some very good storylines that are worth mentioning inside of my studio spaces. And that's the film called Peace, Love, and Misunderstanding. Now, here's the true focus. It's based in Woodstock, the original Woodstock. And so, Jane Fonda's character, it's the mom in the character, in the story. It's the mom inside of the story. And it does depict a very tender transparency between mother-daughter relationships. But in my opinion, if we take it out of the physical and dump it into the non-physical, it becomes universal, and it then applies to all of